a century, they have come to the end of their working life, most of them.
Well, welcome to the Old Classic Car Channel, and today we are at the Smallwood Vintage Rally, looking at all the many cars, lorries, steam things, and vintage Austins in this case. What a wonderful car that is. I've not seen that one before. Late 1920s, early 30s. But yeah, we're at Smallwood, and I thought to begin with we'll have a quick look at some of the classic cars that are here today. And we've got a Wire Edge Mark V Cortina, very smart Morris Minor Traveller. This Hillman Imp, if you've seen some of the Crew Heritage videos, I had a lengthy chat with the owner of that Hillman Imp, so check that out if you're into your Hillmans. Here, got a 4-door Mark II Escort. Got a kit car here, I'm not quite sure what that is. Pilgrim Roadster, I think that is. Clearly based on an old Cortina. Mgb Roadster. And this Sunbeam Talbot. This appeared at the Weaver Wonder run from Hankelo, which I did a video about just a week or two back. So if you want to see some footage of this wonderful little Sunbeam Talbot in action, go and have a look at that video. We've got a few nice badges here as well. Very nice indeed. Still cars coming in. There's an Austin GT, a 1300 GT. Just driving in over there. Another Bobby Dazzler. Now this Amazon brings back memories to me. I mean, obviously I've had a few Amazons over the years, but the first Amazon encounter that I had was back in the 1970s, and Dad had a D-Reg 121 saloon, a 2-door saloon in this exact colour. This one is Staffordshire registered, EH is a Staffordshire number, but I've never had an estate, and that, what a practical classic that is. If you want a daily user that's a really usable car, comfy, easily keeps up with motorway speeds, especially if it's the overdrive car, then you could do a lot worse than one of these. Plus great spares availability. Little kit car here, a Moss, and a Series 1 Morris 8 2-door saloon. A little pre-war car. It's had a sealed headlight, sealed beam headlight conversion. Bit of info there in the window. Originally owned by the Roundtree's Chocolate Company. Have a pause on that if you want to read some of that. Original registration. We approve of that strongly. Very nice indeed. And alongside the Series 1 Tourer over here. So you could get your Morris 8 2-door saloon, 4-door saloon, you get a Tourer, and you can also get a van version as well. There were a few coach-built Woodies dotted around as well back in the day, but they're few and far between now. But this is lovely, this is. Morris 8 for 8 horsepower, not brake horsepower. 8 horsepower was an RAC rating for tax purposes back in the 30s, 40s era. And there we have a vintage Humber. That looks super original car. You don't see too many early saloons. They're much more expensive to restore than a Tourer typically. So it's usually the Tourers that got restored and the saloons tended to get broken for parts. But this is great. A quick peek inside. That looks really original. Probably not the original paint, but very old paint. I'm guessing that was probably painted in the 50s, something like that. I love the view through that window. The old carriage type door handles, that dates it. Many tractors. So back to the cars. We've got an Austin 7 Chummy here, a nice vintage Chummy from the 1920s. This is a fairly early one. The later ones had the headlights in the usual position down there, but the earlier ones had them on the scuttle. The very first Chummies, the doors are a different shape. On these, it's sort of at an angle, the back edge of the door, but the very earlier ones, they had straight, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen one like that. And most of the cars you see are just like this. It's a very bonny little car indeed. So many different variations of Austin 7s. So that's pretty representative of the early days of the Austin 7. And alongside it is the last hurrah of the pre-war Austin 7. This is the Austin Big 7 of the late 1930s. Much bigger car, 4-door, a bit like a Ruby to look at from the front. But yeah, it's a 4-door car. The Big 7. Bit of information here, yep, 1938. First registered in Cornwall, October 1938. A 6 light. And when they say 6 light, what they mean, a 6 light saloon, it's nothing to do with the lights on the front, it's to do with the number of windows on the side. So you've got 1, 2, 3 on each side, so that's where the 6 light comes from. A couple of Henry Ford's finest here. We've got a Model T Roadster or Tourer. So these were built, assembled in Trafford Park in Manchester, but this is a left-hand drive car, so I'm guessing it's been imported at some point. But if it was a right-hand drive car, then yeah, it would have probably come from Trafford Park when it was new. A little truck here. Lots of subtle changes throughout the production run. I mean, at first glance you think those two are very similar, but look at the shape of the radiator on this one. They're both brass rad, the later ones were painted, but the shape of the rad on this Tourer is different to this one. This truck, according to the information, is a 1917 Model T. What a beauty that is. Obviously all this back end is much later in the old style. Very few controls. I've never driven a Model T, but I know the pedals don't do what you think they'll do. It's all very odd, all very strange, because in the 20s, sort of late teens, 20s, they still hadn't really standardised what the pedals would do, the layout, the gear layout and so on. So some manufacturers went their own way, which made things exciting. And here we got a Series 1 Shadow, Shadow 1. There they are, 1974. Made locally at the factory at Crewe, of course. Very swish indeed. Right, let's go and have a look at row number 2. Over here, now this is it's a pre-war design. It's a Rover, it's a P2 or a P3. The pre-war, no, I might be wrong, but I think the pre-war cars had the spoked wheels. Post-war, they were on the solid disc wheels like this. I'm guessing this is about 1946. The P3 was like a slightly revised version of the P2, slightly lower, wider grille. I'm guessing this is a P3, but I'll look at the registration number and just see if there's any information online. But either way, it's a Rover. I think just post-war. This is a 16. You could get a 10 horsepower car, 12, 14, 16. I tried to buy a 20 horse sports saloon version of one of these once, but I got pipped to the post on that one. Unfortunately, the sports saloon had a slightly lower roof and just 2 windows per side, so it's a 4 light. This is a 6 light, a bit like that Austin Big 7. This is the sort of standard saloon, if you like. Oh, lovely car, real quality car. Really, really nice. Here we've got an MG TD. It's a left-hand drive, so I'm guessing an import. Probably come back from America. There's a little doggy. Morgan, no shortage of Morgans around. MGA 1600 Roadster. A Sunbeam Talbot. This is nice. This is a Sunbeam Talbot Alpine. Supreme Sunbeam Talbot. These are very nice. These were used back in the day on like the Monte Carlo Rally, places like that. So they were quite a sporting car and very sleek and stylish as well. There you go, a bit of information there. What a stylish car and interior that is. Absolutely beautiful. Louvered bonnet. I'm not sure if they all had louvered bonnets or not, but certainly looked in keeping with the sort of sportiness of this model's, this model's history, the background to these cars. Very nice too. MGB Roads, that's quite a late one. The V-Reg, so that would have been on rubber bumpers originally. MG, I'm not too good on these. Let's have a look at the information board. MGTA, who's that over there? 1936, there we go. Really smart inside, non-original dash, I'm pretty sure. I thought some of the MGs had octagonal shaped gauges, but I might be wrong. Next to that, we've got a TF, so it's the last of the T line. So we've got the TA and the TF. Really nice little Morris Minor 1000 here. The Vauxhall L-Type. Now, is this a Velox? They did the Wyvern and the Velox, didn't they? I think the Velox was a 6 and the Wyvern was the 4-cylinder. You don't see too many of these at shows. Let's have a look round the back. I do like that Humber though. Anyway, concentrate. Right, Wyvern MTT. That's a Devon around Exmouth area registration, so it's spent its early years down there. Really original trim inside. Can't really see through the glass, but you get the idea. That's a really nice car, that is. It's quite big actually, I'm surprised how big that is. The 100E Prefect. This one pops up at many of the local shows. You'll have seen this before in the videos if you've been here before. And an Austin E35 pickup, a 487 made. That's a real rarity, that is. There's a Mini Sidewalk, one of many limited editions that were done of Minis in the 90s. Triumph Stag, chrome wires. A wonderful old Jensen Interceptor here. What's that on a M registration, early 1970s. Big Chrysler V8 hiding away under the bonnet there. Oof. Really stylish car this, very swish. Sort of appealing to the jet set in the late 60s, early 1970s. Bit of information there, so let's have a quick look at that. So this is a 1973 car, an Interceptor 3. Very sleek. Lovely little Capri here, K-Reg, so that's about 71-ish. All the bugs will be attracted to that one. Mini 1275 GT W-Reg, quite a late one. This has the rare Dunlop De Novo wheels, something to do with the run flat tyres back in the day, I think. It's a really smartly restored car, that is. Smart Beetle. Interesting wheels. Oh, they suit it, don't they? A mighty Vauxhall. Which one's this? Is it a Ventura or... I don't know my Vauxhalls very well, I'm afraid. You'll have to help me out in the comments because I'm bound to go wrong on some of these. A VX2300. XCA is a North Wales registration. It's good to see a few classic Vauxhalls there. They don't seem to be as represented as often as, say, your older Fords The BMC products. I think it's harder to get parts for old Vauxhalls compared to some of the competition. There's a few period goodies in the back window as well. Old radio and camera. Who remembers the old Instamatic cameras? There's a Isetta three-wheeler bubble car here, complete with radio in the back. Right, we're to row 3 now in the classic car section. Singer Gazelle, 4-door. Of course, these were based on a contemporary Hillman Minx. It's a North Wales reg as well, ACC. Local Pontiac Firebird. I saw this one driving past the house earlier on. We've got an MM, Highlight MM, Tourer, Morris Minor. This was the last of the MMs shortly after they raised the headlights. The earlier cars obviously had the low lights, and they raised them, I think, for the American market and the regulations. And this is one of the last MMs, sort of 1952-ish or thereabouts, 51, 52. You can tell, I mean, the grille, the cheese grater grille was shared with the MMs and the first of the Series 2s. The only obvious difference, as I can remember, is the sort of a strip on the bonnet there. On the MMs, they just curved down like that. On the later cars, Series 2s, they sort of came out with a little M, a bit like on the Morris 1000s, which makes me think this is a late MM. Side valve engine, 918cc from the Morris 8 Series E. Next to that, we've got a Bond mini car, TWU 359. I know reading out registrations annoys some people, but well, there's a bit of information here. It's great to see so many information sheets. So there's 3 where there's a Mark D Family Deluxe with a 197cc Villiers engine from 1957. There you go. I'm sure it's a bit chilly for her in the back. Good morning. I think to start them you used to have to raise the bonnet, and the kickstart was under there. At least you got Popeye on hand to help you out. And here, a mighty Granada. Couldn't be more different. That's the variety you get at these sort of vintage and steam rallies. You know, you've got a little 3-wheeler Bond of the 1950s, and next to that you've got an early 1980s Granada Estate. Huge machine. Next up, a 64 Renault 8 Gordini. I've seen this one before. Capri is our 3.1. Another car well suited to today's weather, a Herald Convertible. Separate chassis on these, of course. One of the last cars probably sold in this country with a separate chassis, I would have thought, apart from Land Rovers. Another example of one of those P2 or P3 Rovers. So this is a 1948 Tourer. Bit of information there. Yeah, resumed production in 1946, so it's very much a pre-war car, but they just sort of revamped them a little bit and reintroduced production as soon as they could once the war had finished. It's a magnificent car, that is. Such a quality machine. Such a stylish way of driving around. There's such a rare car now. Just look at the chrome on that. Fantastic paint job. Because black is one of the hardest colours to get right when you're restoring a car body. Very swish indeed. 2 hooters at the front. You'll probably find that one of them's low tone and the other's high tone. And the Mustang, a notchback Mustang, 289. There we go. Proper V8 one. And then Austin Healey Sprite, very like the Midget. And the Beetle. A jolly example. Another MGB, perfect for a day like this. Smart Mini, late 1970s, complete with a, I'm not sure if this is a Britax or Webasto roof. And who remembers Supercover? That was like the warranty scheme for all British Leyland cars back in the 1970s. AA relay, so we've got some proper 70s RAC and AA badges on the front. And the minivan. Someone's converted it to have like a saloon grille on it, but originally it would have just been a pressed metal body colour grille. Same with all the vans and pickups. This must be a fairly early one because it's got the vent in the roof, unless it's been retrofitted. Because normally the ones in the 1970s, the vans and pickups, the Mini 95s, didn't have the vent in the roof. And that's on a T, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it's probably been retrofitted. Another Mini saloon. MG midget, round wheel arch. Some of them had square arches at the back, or squared off arches. But for a time they had this rounded off wheel arch. An MGC, 6-cylinder car, you can tell that by the hump in the bonnet. Otherwise, to look at, you can't see too many differences. I think they may have had slightly larger wheels, slightly wider wheels perhaps, but certainly the bonnet is the giveaway on these. It's the BMC 3-litre engine under the bonnet of that one. The Mark II Jaguar. The later cars had slimmer bumpers and they were called the 240 or the 340. But this is a proper Mark II, quite an early one on a non-dating registration. It's a 3.4. Everyone goes on about the 3.8 because it's the biggest engine one, but many people also think that 3.4 is the revier of the two and just a little bit nicer to drive, but having driven neither, I can't comment myself. And here, another blast from my past who had the Amazon before, and this is a 144 saloon. We had something very similar to this that replaced the Amazon 121 at the end of the 1970s. This is an 8-dredge car. The B20 is the engine. They started out with a B18, the 1800cc engine, then they enlarged it slightly and it became the B20 and the 2-litre. And again, an information sheet in the window, which is really good. Very smart. In other markets you could get a 2-door version of these and it's the 142. So it's the 140 series. So 140 and the 4 for the 4-door. The estate was a 145. Like I say, the 2-door saloon was a 142. Very logical, these Swedes. That's really nice. There's so much going on at this show at the moment. We've got tractors on the move at the moment. There's a load of stationary engines doing their things as we're walking in. So I'll have a proper look at the tractors and the lorries a little bit later, but let's carry on with the many classic cars that are here today. And here, P6 Rover, Rover 2000, that's on an F, so late 67, early 68. The Bond Bug 700 ES, not one for the shy and retiring amongst us. Drive TR6, much lowered, much modified Beetle. There's a fuel tank in the front. You really wouldn't want to nudge one of these in a queue of traffic. Lots of, I'm not sure what all this is. It's all the gear for the air suspension. Sunbeam Alpine. Roots' rival for the MGB. Very stylish little cars as well. Another P6, this is a later one with a different front end on it. Another one of these YouTubing types. Out the way, out the way. That's nice, isn't it? 944. Everything here if you look hard enough. XK8 Mark II Escort. No, I don't know. Cosworth, blah, blah, blah. Not quite sure, but not original engine, but great car. Mark V Cortina Estate. We've seen this one before. The rally car, 2-door Escort. And a Vitesse convertible on a 66 registration. Guessing this would be a 2-litre car by then. So this was a 6-cylinder brother to the Triumph Herald. Like I say, separate chassis, and that enabled them to produce all manner of different body styles on that particular chassis at relatively low cost. So you had the estates, the vans, the Herald that is. And then you had the 6-cylinder Vitesse. The chassis was very similar to that used on the Spitfire as well, although these had outriggers that came to the outside edge behind these. Well, those sills are just cosmetic at the bottom of the doors there. Whereas the Spitfire didn't have outriggers coming out from the centre chassis, and the sills on the Spitfires and the GT6s were structural. So if you chop the sills off without bracing the body, it tends to fold in two. Right, got an early-ish Mark 1 Cortina here. It's a 64 plate and it's a console Cortina. It's a really nice car. Who remembers those? If you've got any memories of the cars that feature in this video, please pop a note in the comments. Got a Tr7 Convertible there. Looks like a work in progress P5B Coupe, but it's still a 4-door car, and they just had a low roof line. Which do you prefer though, the saloons or the coupes? I must admit, I mean, I did have a P5B saloon, and I did like it. It was a lovely car. Over here, 243 TWC Viva HA, really original car. Not something you see too often nowadays. There's a blue one that I see at some of the shows locally. But this grey one, look at that interior. Shame you can't really see it through the window very well. It's very well preserved, and I bet you'd struggle to get that pattern of material now if you wanted to restore one of these. Mark 1 Fiesta, nice to see. Staffordshire reg. Alongside that, a 4-door Mark 1, a late-ish example of the Mark 1 Escort. What a great day for walking around the classic car show. These used to be everywhere back in the day. The Morris 1100 or 1300, which one's this? This one's a 1300. It's a 1275 engine. Many of these are scrapped in the day and donated their running gear into minis. The Hillman Minx, this was the Arrow series car, the Arrow line. Hillman Minx and the Hunters and so on. This Cadillac we've seen at Crew Heritage before now. Someone else a fan of the boiled linseed oil or similar by the look of it. What a car that is. I'm not too keen on the late 50s thin cars. They don't do a great deal for me. But the early 50s, like, I mean, this is a 52 Cadillac Coupe Series 62. This era I think is a lot more appealing. They are very big though. Presumably one of the supplying garages for the car back in the day. So the interior has been restored, the dash and everything. But the exterior has been left in very much oily rag state. This truck has been modified with a diesel engine, I seem to remember. This one appears at Crew, as does this one, and the Cadillac alongside it. So these are quite familiar to anyone who's watched some of the videos on the channel before now. Mighty Dodge Ram. Somewhat modified Chevy 3100 pickup truck, half-ton pickup truck. Just had to stop recording then because I was delivered a bagel. Nice Cadillac. P100 pickup. Ford Orion. Is that one of the posh ones? It looks like it. XR3, or XR3i rather, I think by that point. Glorious little Alpine 8 110. So many cars. Austin 16. These are a handsome machine. Like the Rovers, these were produced either side of World War II. There's a few extras on this one. Those flashing indicators are off a motorbike by the look of it. And the horns I don't think are original. They're in period, but I don't think they were original fitment. At least there, they may have been hidden away under the bonnet. Nice old leather seats. Yeah. Very smart car indeed. Cars like this Persia 309 used to be a really common sight in the 1980s, late 80s, 90s. They've all but disappeared now. Another Vitesse convertible. I like the wheels. They're proper, yeah, they're proper wolf races. That's a Mark II, so that's got the Rotaflex rear suspension, which helped tame that slightly wayward rear end that they had. Next up, a Dolly. Great little Fiat 500. Another MG. Again, I'm not quite sure what model that is. I can't tell my TAs from my TCs, I'm sorry about that. Oh, Moggy for sale, there you go. There's a phone number, free advert if you want to buy a Morris Minor. So what is it, Series 2? This is what I was saying about the MMs, the highlight MMs with the raised lights. This is an early Series 2 because it's still got the cheese grater grille of the MM, but the different bonnet motif. So this is a Series 2, this would have the A series engine under the bonnet as opposed to the side valve unit in the MM. To look at, they were very similar. I had a 52 mm, one of the last. Someone converted it to an A series engine, which made it quite a usable car. One thing that did catch me out is the wheels are held on with studs and just wheel nuts on these in a normal way, but the MMs, even though the wheels look very similar, they're held on with bolts, and they're quite hard to find, as I found out when I tried to find some for my car a few years ago. Right, another TR6. This is a Fiat 600, slightly bigger brother to the Fiat 500. Very bonny example indeed. The Sunbeam Alpine. It's the earlier-ish one with the big fins. Used to have the Roots 4-cylinder engine under the bonnet. I like this, a Zephyr, Mark 1 Zephyr. A Zephyr 6-cylinder car, it's for sale as well. A few optional extras there, the sun visor, the portholes in the wing. Those are an accessory, those were quite commonly seen on Buicks of the era. That was one of the giveaways of a Buick. Let's have a quick look inside here. Really smart. When I was a kid, the next door neighbour, he used to have a Mark 1 console, same shape as this. He used to repaint it every few years with just a tin of paint. Bit of information in this one as well. Cool, fantastic. 1955 Ford Zephyr Mark 1, 2200cc, 3-speed box vacuum wipers, just like my old Anglia. So even though this was like the posh car really in Ford's range for here in the UK at the time, it still had vacuum wipers incredibly. I just find that amazing, to be honest. What a lovely car that is. Bet that rolls along nicely. I mean, some 50s cars do suffer with slightly low gearing if you're going on a trip, but I bet this rolls along nicely. Somebody came prepared. Okay, carrying on, we've got a Mark 1 Ford Granada, that's a 3-litre V6 car. Some unmodified Mark 1 Golf. Very shiny. I love this steam stuff. Something you don't see too often. This is a Series 1 XJ, nothing unusual in that. And this is the early one. Well, it's not a K, but the earlier XJs had the reflectors within the reverse lights. After a little while, the Series 1s, they moved that below the light unit there. And they also had straight pipes. The curvy ones were designed to reduce the chance of fumes entering, because sometimes the early cars with the straight pipes that came through here, the fumes would get drawn into the boot area and then into the car. So they fitted these curvy exhaust extensions to try and just deflect the air away from being drawn into the boot there. But you don't see many on wires. I mean, wires do suit many Jags. Another side of an early XJ Series 1 with the chrome surrounds. Probably can't see that, but the chrome surrounds to the instruments. This is a manual version. Right, carry on. Moggy 1000, H-Reg, very clean car. This Razor Edge Calm and Give, seen before somewhere. I think it was here probably last year. stylish indeed. Like a Beetle, engine hung out the back there. This is a 1500. Very dainty little car. Some nice little details like these little lights on the side here. Alongside the Golf Mark II, we've got a Saab 900 booted car. So this is a saloon rather than a hatchback, which you more commonly see. And these are their origins back to the Saab 99 of the late 1960s. Really good cars. An MGY series here. I seem to remember, is this the oldest YB, or I'm sure there's a bit of information about it. 1951 the world's first MGYB. Nice old tax disc in the windscreen. The very first MGYB off the production line, November 1951. Really nice cars, they are. Escort Mgb. The Sunbeam Rapier. This is a sporty two-door version of the Minx. Of course, we had the Singer Gazelle before, which is a four-door car, and this is the coupe. These are quite neat because it's like a pillarless, like very American-y. It's like a pillarless coupe, so you can wind the door windows down, and the frame goes down with it. And then when you open the rear side windows, these sort of curve back like that and disappear within the back wing there. You've got a nice airy cabin to drive along on a day like this. Really stylish cars, I do like these. You don't often see those old hubcaps as well. Nice cars. And Consul Classic. Talking of coupes, the Consul Capri even, yes. XJ40, late newer one, E-Type, 2+2, an X300. This was a 6-cylinder saloon, and then they replaced that with the X308, which had the V8, slightly different bumper, different shaped turn signals are the giveaways between the 6 and the 8-cylinder cars. You've got a Series 3 XJ from 1985. X350, aluminium bodied. Dad's got one of those, the same colour, XK8. And on the end of the row here, a very smart Morris Traveller. Series 1 E-Type, 66. Mark III Ford Escort, 4-door. We had one of those, a Gear, no less, a posh one. An A55 Cambridge Mark II, I had one of these as well. This one, this Shropshire registered car, is on TR6 wheels, those wide steel wheels, and they really suit it, I think, much better than Mini Lights, in my opinion. But they really suit it. Nice visor as well. Not that you need a sun visor very often in this country, it just slows you down, I would have thought. Same with this A35, nice little two-door car. Super shiny. Beautiful car, 948cc A series engine, and then Mark II. What have we got? A Zephyr, this one, isn't it? Just had to come around the front so I could see exactly which model it was. Mark II Zephyr, an Austin A40 Somerset, 1200cc. Spitfire Mark IV, 1296cc. A Pontiac Catalina, no idea what size engine that is, but judging by the size of bonnet, it ain't small. An Austin Healey 3000 Mark III. So like the MGC, this had BMC's 3-litre straight 6 under the bonnet. It's a 1966 car. Even room in the back for passengers. Kind of. New Swish. What's this? A Chevy Monte Carlo. Pontiac. The Lanchester LD10. This is one of the Briggs bodied cars. You had two options in the early 1950s. This was sort of, by this point in time, Lanchester was a subsidiary of Daimler, so it had the fluid flywheel and pre-selected gearbox of the bigger Daimlers. But yeah, you could get this, the Briggs bodied version, which was the same company that did the bodies for Fords, Prefects and such back in the day. Or you could get the, what was the other one called? The Barker body, that's it, the coach-built Barker body. These were all steel, which made them a little bit easier to restore. The Barker bodied cars, which they're probably a little bit more stylish, but it's sort of very much a coach-built car, ash frame. There's some lovely details on these old Lanchesters. You know, the handle, just really, real quality little car. You know, not fast, but just really good quality, high quality car. You can see the pre-selector gear selector on the side of the steering column there. So basically, if you're approaching a corner that you knew you'd have to change down for, you'd select the next gear that you wanted on the selector, but that didn't change the gear until you pressed the pedal on the left on the floor, and that actuated the gear, that engaged the gear that you've pre-selected for the corner. Riley's were very similar, they usually had a pre-selected gearbox as well. Really nice little car. That's the bonnet opening catch. So you lift that up and that does the catch under here, and you raise the bonnet. Just really nice detail. The mighty Citroen, the Goddess, the Citroen DS. Another XJ, this is a Series 2, so it's got the raised front bumper. Series 1 had a lower front bumper. There's the Austin, is that a 1300 GT, sporty one. Console Mark II. Now, I'm not quite sure what model it is. I'm guessing it's about 1932 or thereabouts, but I will look up the registration if I think on. A beautiful, almost limousine type car. You've got a partition between the driver and the occupants there. You can just about see that. Acres of space in the back for lounging. And a little pop-up seat there if you need to carry an extra passenger. What a beautiful car that is. I like these mouldings down the side, that's quite a nice little touch. I think that's most of the rows of cars done. So we've got a few more commercial type vehicles here. And to begin with, so I know we like our commercials, a Thames 400e, the 1500 weight pickup truck. Well, it's a flatbed really, isn't it? Very dainty little truck. And over here, someone commented on one of the, I think it was on one of the Cheshire Run videos, how rare it is to see a Thames Trader in any of my videos, so I'll try and rectify that now with this XUN 107 Thames Trader. For some reason they don't seem to pop up quite as often. There's a John Deere. You don't tend to see them quite as often at shows around here for some reason. I guess the closer you get to Essex you might see more of the Ford commercial vehicles. It's a really nice one. Let's just sneak around the back of the Citroen DS20 and that Lanchester, the Briggs bodied Lanchester. We've got an ERF, because these were locally built. Crew's not very far from here. Look underneath. Wow. Someone's really spent their time under here, haven't they? What's that tractor? Heavens. That's a Renault tractor. You can just about make out the livery on the side there. Mighty Kenworth. Right, we've got a few commercials coming up.
That's where we've missed this bit.
There's a Silver Shadow too, just hiding away here. Didn't see this one. Very nice. Now, what's this? Dodge 67, early 1968 Dodge truck, the D100. You see lots of Chevys and Fords, but not so many Dodges. Cool. You get a few bits and bobs in there. There's that Healy 3000. Yep. From the back at least, there's no mistaking who made this. There's that Pontiac Catalina. Oldie worldy style sign writing. How about this one? Mrs. OCC was quite taken with this. This is an Ape, a little Italian three-wheeler delivery truck. How cute is that? I do get tempted with these when I see them for sale. And seeing this one here, especially this one that's so original, isn't helping. Last one I saw of these, all the load bed had rotted away because it's all made out of steel. So it's not going to last very well if you left it outside for too long.
This is Piaggio, right?
Ape.
Ape, sorry, Ape.
Yeah. It's Italian.
It is.
You can see the scooter origins in there. What a great little thing to buzz around in, do your shopping in. Economical too. Just perfect little truck. Next to the Ape, we've got a CF2 Bedford. Another little Thames 400E, this one 1965 with a drop side wooden body on it. Do love the commercials. And the boot's open on the Austin A40 Somerset. I used to have one of those. I sold it. I could never get the thing to run properly, then the wheel fell off and I just gave up. Right. Looks fairly freshly made, the body on the little 400E here. Beautiful job they've done of that. Proper hardwood. So what's this, a little Honda or Bedford? Oh, it's a Bedford, isn't it? Yeah. Little Bedford Rascal. So this is a drop side metal bodied truck. Don't see too many little pickups, the vans still pop up from time to time. We've got a Mark II Transit, a long wheelbase drop side. It's 1984. Registration on that one. Quite a lot bigger than the Bedford. A lovely little split screen VW van. It's a 67 on an E-Reg. And again, a bit of information. T2 split screen. There's believed to be 12 split screen double sliding door vans left in existence and only 2 in right hand drive. This one built 22nd of February 1967. Destined for Zimbabwe. So, double doors, sliding side doors both sides. Yep, I've never seen one before. There's that Mark II Cambridge with the TR6 wheels parked behind it. Very neat car. And there's the engine lurking away under that. That's the only downside of a van version of one of the VWs is you've got the engine under the back, so the load bay is consequently that much higher, at least near the back door. So you can see. So you can see all this is taken up with engine, so to load stuff you have to go in there and then it drops down. So that's a bit of a compromise. How clean is that? Wow. I don't think this will be carrying any loads of bricks anytime soon. Next to the VW there's this pretty cool Chevrolet pickup. Another half ton. This is a 41 to 46 era Chevy. It says 1946 on the plate, but this shape came in 41. We seem to have a trio of classic Escorts hiding away here amongst all the lorries. Not quite sure why they're here, unless it's a club stand. RS 2000 Mark 1. Many Cibi lamps on it, very nice too. RS 2000 with a slopey front. And the Mark 1 Mexico. Right, let's go and find some classic lorries then. Right, so we've got a Volvo F12, an ERF, early 1970s. Smart, isn't it? Look good with a matching Arctic trailer on the back. Donnelly Transport of Armagh. Is that where it's come from? Incredible paint finish on this. Couple more ERFs. No, D registration, E registration. Beautifully turned out. An Atkinson Raider. Oh, I've seen an Atkinson Borderer. I'm not sure if I've seen a Raider before. Very unusual looking cab. It's like an extended cab as well. Like the load on the back. I'm guessing there's some living accommodation hidden in there. Or at least accommodation for when the weather turns bad, which hopefully won't be the case today. ERF, early 1980s. Let's just zip along here a bit. 70s ERF. This one we've seen at the Midway Cafe before now, an EC10. An E12. An EC12. EC10. Heavens. Real gathering of the ERF lorries today. Cummins power. You can see some older lorries in the distance. Looking great in the sun is this bright red Bedford. This is a J series, J-type, maybe a J2 or a J4. Very chunky little fella in the livery of Trentham Gravel Company Limited. Wonderful sign writing. None of this stick on vinyl rubbish here. TK, a short wheelbase, very chunky looking. The TK 1930. And this is beautiful, isn't it? JSU 885. Guessing this may be O series, but it could be a K series. Someone will let me know in the comments, I'm sure. But at least I know it's a Bedford. I've got that bit right. Don't they look great? A couple of Volvos and a Leyland Clydesdale. That's a Bobby Dazzler, isn't it? This is the sort of era that when I was growing up, these sort of lorries would have been on the road, the sort of early to mid 1970s. Well, Albion, Scotland's finest. Flatbed, wouldn't that look great with an old tractor or something just parked on there? These flat fronted lorries are just stunning things. You know, for the price of nowadays, for the price of a fairly average car, you can buy a lorry like that and run around in it to these sort of shows. And I just think these have got so much character. You could have 10 of these in a line and they'd all look different. They'd have different bodies on, different liveries, different stories to tell. That's what appeals to me, apart from the look obviously, but it's the history of these things is what appeals to me. And working vehicles, commercials, they just got run into the ground and no one envisaged they'd last more than 10, 15 years, something like that. Another one of the Bedford J series there, Bedford TK, complete with disguised living accommodation on that one as well. Makes it very practical for a weekend away at a vintage rally like this. A really chunky Bedford here. I forget what model number this is. Is it a KM or I don't know. A Leyland Marathon 2, late 1970s. Like the visor. It's a rare sight that is now. A few moderns. Well, modern to me anyway. Another one of those Bedfords that I couldn't identify. This is a 67 or early 68. Coal Merchants, J. Harrison and Son Coal Merchants, Milton, Stoke-on-Trent. I've got a feeling we see their modern lorries driving around even today. Oh, some nice badges here. Look at these badges. Isn't that beautiful? A few more of these later trucks. We've got another Albion over here. 1939.
Yeah, that side as well.
Flatbed body. These Bedford TKs were such a common sight back in the day. There's an incredible crane. What a thing that is. Dennis. Command Support Unit. The Dennis Fire Appliance. Is that a wheeled escape? Not sure I fancy going up there. Get a good view for the camera though. It's a Dodge A-Reg. This one pops up at the Midway Cafe on a very regular basis. The ERF, initials of the founder of course. Look at this Bedford, wow. Forestry. Is that an RL? Is that an ex-military RL? Certainly looks ex-military. A cut down Leyland. That one we saw at Astle Park. The Ford Cargo of the mid-1980s. In Austin, this is an unusual looking machine, OHH 232. Let's have a look at the information board. 1959 Austin FE Series 3 flatbed. There you go. All the information there. First registered Carlisle, July 1959. AEC Marshall from 1977. Twin axles on the back. The Leyland. What's this one? A Reaver. That's another, again, T-Reg, about 1977. Another Thames Trader. Here we go. Two so far. This is from 1965. Look at this Foden. This one we've seen on the Cheshire Run before now. And continuing on the row of lorries and ERF here. Late 50s, early 60s, I would guess. But usually what happens when I guess, I get it wrong, but it's there or thereabouts. Really nice wraparound screens. Oh, this, I've seen this before. This is an outside broadcast vehicle based on the Austin Lodestar. What a beauty that is. Let's have a quick look around the back. Beautifully coach painted, this one, not sprayed. You can see, just about see the brush marks in there. That looks absolutely stunning. That's just how they would have been back in the day. Love it. Yeah, so this is based on the Lodestar. There was the K9, which was a militarised version. This is the Austin Lodestar from 1955. Got some photos of the restoration there. What a beauty that is. Alongside the Austin, ERF. The ERF, complete with a wood effect sign writing on it. Beautiful truck. And the ERF EC11, there's that lovely Bedford we saw before. A CF2, complete with many goodies on the screen. Someone likes Bedford memorabilia. AC Mercury. Over at Ford D series, looks like it's come all the way over from Buxton. Actually, not too far really. A D1314, a custom cab. Another classic Ford here, Mark 1 Transit drop side. Alongside the Ford, another example of the Ford D series, this time a breakdown truck. 3-ton rated. Over here we've got a Sedan Atkinson. Good heavens, what's this on the back of this beaver tail? Hey, by gum. Where's that been pulled out of? Eesh. I have no idea what that is or was. Clearly a crane on the back. Look at these old tyres. Traction implement. Goodyear's Super Grip. When I had Big Dodge restored all those years ago, I did keep all the original tyres off it because some of them dated back to the Second World War. So I thought I can't throw those away, so those are stacked up at home, as you do. Maybe this side will give a few more clues. Is that a Petter? So that's the engine. Who created this machine? I'm not quite sure. Let me know in the comments if you know your classic plants and know exactly who built that crane and when it would have been built. There you go, there's that ladder we were looking at before. No thanks. Right, now we're getting to a mixture of lorries and buses, PSVs, coaches, buses and so on. There's another one I'll have to look up, this yellow little beauty here. Got a double decker here, and a livery of PMT. Contrary to what you might think, that actually stands for Potteries Motor Transport, if I remember correctly. We've got a half cab Foden here. What a beauty, that is just post-war I think. I know the gent who owns this Foden has got quite a collection of Fodens. He was one of the people who originally moved the Dodge for me from Donington Park all the way back in 1995. Him and a friend of his dragged it back behind the Foden. Isn't that just so stylish? I mean, none of this was necessary, none of this beading, none of this was strictly necessary. It was all just the coach builder and the designer exhibiting their skills. What a joy to see something like this. like I say, half cab design. There's the entrance for the door for the passengers. What a beauty.